You are listening to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on all of the statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Booger and Tanura.
What is up, and welcome to Overwatch League Network, episode 131, coming to you live this Monday night on Twitch. Shout out all the viewers watching us live. Y'all are awesome. We're going to kick this show off, and I introduce you to my host, Anura, and see how his week's been doing. So, Anura, how's the week been going for you, dude?
It's been a good week. Went back to the gym. Saw some. Heard actually, I was working and I heard some terrible news about my team. And then I went home and then I woke up and I went to the gym again just to get the feelings out. And then I just kind of Sunday was a Father's Day, so I hung out with my family and we had a good time together, to say the least. So it was a good family time and I enjoyed it a lot. So other than that, it's good. How about you?
Yeah, it's been a pretty chill week. This is my last week working before vacation, so been busy getting ready to be gone away from the shop for a while, but it was pretty great being an Outlaws fan and getting to drink from the glass of victory again. But
Yeah.
but before we get on to the news about what's been going on this week in the Overwatch League, we have an announcement to make. This past weekend, we did a watch party for the Houston versus Gladiators game, and it was pretty fun. So we're gonna keep it going, and just pick a game that's gonna be, what we see as a hype game that both of us will try to be available to hang out in the watch party for. And this week we have a hype game to do a watch party, and it is the Philadelphia Fusion versus the San Francisco Shock Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time or 4 p.m. Pacific. If y'all want to hang out with us and watch the game, just pop on over to the Discord, and we got a channel on there that says Overwatch League Watch Party, and that's where we'll be hanging out. One thing is, this past weekend, the games happened so fast before the Houston Glads game that it started a little bit early. So, that's the time the Overwatch League has scheduled, but just keep your eye on the games if you want to hang out and you're not watching the games before it, because it might start a little earlier or even later if we have some really good map fives. So I'm really excited to be doing that. I think it's really great to have time just to hang out, get to know the community. I really want to welcome everyone that has any interest in hanging out to come to the watch party because it's super fucking cool. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into the stuff that's been happening around the league this week. Um, we had the Los Angeles Gladiators make a new signing for a DPS player named Kevster from Team Doge. They added Kevster to the roster, and he started playing alongside Birdring this week. Um, Even though the Gladiators didn't have the best team performance, I don't think it was a lot of on Kevster. He seemed a pretty legit talent to be playing. So it's also good to note that Kevster is reuniting with Mirror. They played together before on NRG Esports in early 19 before the team, disbanded. Um, but seemed there was a lot of people pretty hype about this signing. I know, Anura, you were pretty stoked. I saw on Twitter you were really talking up Kevster. So um, I really don't think I think that he's going to be a good addition to this team and bring a little bit of depth. So, um, are you stoked to have Kevster on your favorite team?
Yeah, Kevster has been a guy I've been excited for a while. He's one of the guys I said Vancouver, not Vancouver Titans, but was it Washington Justice should have picked up before they went full Korean. So Kevster and Onigod, you just pick them up, and honestly, you're a really good team. And honestly, he performed really well. to take note, he's only been playing for this team for about 6 days, and he's on like 150 ping in EU while playing in NA. So this kid looked that good with these drawbacks. This is just the beginning for him. I think he was really solid. He wasn't as pop off as people were like thinking, but like give him some time to really warm up and really start being part of this group. I think he could do a lot of good things. I think Mirror's really good. I don't see him. I see Mirror coming in for more niche picks now, which I think would be perfect for him. Kind of like the LH Cloudy, how they're using Ryan, and they can use Mirror in the same kind of comps where it's just like this dude's a mechanical god at things like Doomfist or whatever. But Kevster is just a really good all-around player and fills a lot of holes. I feel like May's been the biggest hole for the Gladiators, and Kevster has a pretty good May. His Tracer, as you saw, was really good. I'm excited to see him later on with this team with more practice, maybe in NA, just doing what he needs to do to pop off. It's a solid signing. I think it's the biggest signing for this side of the Overwatch League, the like North American side of Overwatch League, because of he's just been so amazing in contenders with Team Doge. I mean, Doge was an amazing team in NA contenders, and they were carried by Onigod and Kevster. Their tanks and supports are also really good, but like overall, those are like the biggest stars. So I'm excited to see what else they can do with them. This is only the beginning. It wasn't a good start, but it looks like both of the Team Doge players did not really have the best start in the Overwatch League. So look out for the future. This isn't near his peak.
Oh, for sure, for sure. This kind of leads me to wonder what the Glads are going to want to do with some of their other DPS players, because that leaves them with four now. Who Birdring, we've been seeing play almost every game. Kevster, I believe he played all four maps against the Outlaws, and then they have Jaru and Mirror, so they're starting to have a little bit of extra there. I don't know, maybe if they want to look to see if they can trade, find new teams for one of their players that aren't going to be playing as much, or if they're going to go like the 2019 shock route and just be like, stack the DPS line, we'll switch them in as we need, rotate it constantly. Uh, but he
I
could take.
think
Go ahead.
Deepe's goal was actually to make a 12-man roster with everyone. Like they already have 4 tanks, and so they're probably going to get 4 DPS in there. I think they're probably looking for 2 more supports, and then you can have inter-team scrims and really like just build out your players like that. I
Yeah.
think that was his goal was like this season. They made sure they had space to find the best players to pick up later on. This isn't his final roster. I don't think this year's going to be even close to his final roster of what he wants for this team. But for now, I think it's solid. I like it. As a Gladiators fan, I like it, of course. But like, it's just yeah. I'm hoping to see some support signings in the coming months. But other than that, like, it's good.
For sure, for sure. And we've got a little bit more going on as far as movement within the league. Over on the Washington Justice, they had a little bit of changes with their coaching line. They promoted Supreme from assistant coach to head coach for the Washington Justice. And then they signed Chiliwa to be the new assistant coach from O2 Blast. So we've been seeing Washington Justice pretty much try to restructure, and it seems like they want to go full Korean, which they kind of are, with the exception of Lolish, who seems to just, I don't know, he might just be hanging out for the rest of the season collecting a check, because we have not seen anything from him since he joined the team, and now I don't know if he really got a spot, because the Justice definitely are pursuing that full Korean route, and it hasn't been working for them yet. But you got to look at the Florida Mayhem from the past seasons. It wasn't working for them at first. They just needed time to iron it out, get some more pieces. So I think this is just kind of a part of Washington Justice rebuilding season. I think that's kind of how they're looking at it. Um, they're just taking the season to try to rebuild. I don't think anybody kind of has hopes for the Justice making a deep playoff run. Like, doesn't just really doesn't seem like a thing going. But Anura, what do you know about these coaches?
I think Supreme was a part of was it Valiant? It was another team previously, and he has a lot of people who hype him up. Basically, I think he's a good coach. So maybe this is what Washington needs to at least like look competent right now. But I don't know what you can do with this. It's like these guys are building cities with metal and shit, and you're over here with Legos. Like the team's not meant to be played. Like I don't. Johnu's good. Stitch looked all right. I mean, Tuba has not looked impressive at all. I don't like the support line. Roar is Roar. Like you put him on Winston, he's gonna look decent, but other than that, like I don't think the kid even plays the game. I think he just scrims and goes home. I don't know what you're supposed to do with the Washington team. It's dope that they're trying to figure out like what they're gonna do with the coaching staff right now. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see if they're just gonna pick up the hottest new head coach from contenders Korea next season. Like this is I don't see them turning around. I said the same thing with Boston, and look what Boston's at. So who knows? But I mean, it's going to take some signings. It really is. They're really in the hole. They're easily my 20th team. Where other teams look like they're improving a lot, this team just looks stagnant and just not there. So I mean, we'll have to see, but I don't have a lot of faith in it.
Yeah, I I think not a lot of people do have a lot of faith in the Justice right now, but yeah, they might be. They're it seems like they're kind of playing for the future. They don't want to start signing a roster, get a coach that wants to go a different direction. So now they've got coaching staff in, and they're able to really just build whatever kind of team they think will be the best, and we'll have to see how that's going to go. But I definitely foresee some changes on that team before next year. But talking about some team changes, we'll talk about some that actually have been going pretty well. Over at the Spark have gone through a couple changes this past week. They formally dropped Crystal, even though he had no chance to play for that team ever since he. I don't think he's been on good terms with them this whole season, and it might have just been they were waiting to get the money to buy his contract or something. But they got rid of him, and Rhea had to take an extended leave of absence for a wrist injury. And with Rhea leaving, they sought off tank player QOQ to replace Rhea. And let's just say it went pretty well for the Spark this weekend. QOQ looked really tight against a high level team. And, you know, we, we all kind of expected Crystal to be gone. So this Spark team also, I think they recently signed Architect, so they have they're moving forward as a team, and it looks pretty tight. Did you get to see the Spark play this week with QOQ?
I did. I've been looking at QQ for a while. I think he's fantastic. I think Rhea's really not shown up that much this year. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he's been played. I don't know Assassin's been played a lot as well. It's like a weird thing with the Spark right now. But I think they had two honestly, I think upgrades to their roster. They also dropped Crystal, which I honestly like who cares. Addo's on this team. You remember Addo? He's on this team. No one talks about Addo because he's not going to get any playing time. But I think right now the improvements with Architect and QOQ on this roster, I think they're looking really solid, and they showed it this week. They looked really good. Architect's looking like the star. Godsby's looking solid as ever. I mean, Gushue is Gushue. This team is looking solid. I think they also played Mika, like a new main support, and he looked really good too. It's looking like this team's really coming back to their form that they were last year. Like they looked really stagnant. They didn't sign a lot of players coming into this season, and now with these mid-season signings, they're really looking to turn up the heat. I'm super excited to see them in this summer showdown. That was really hard to say, but I am. This is kind of I'm kind of hyped for the Spark. This is good. Right now, they're looking like a top 3 team in that region. I don't know about the next meta, but right now, I really do think.
For sure. The Spark. I mean, they pulled off a win over New York XL, who is a pretty strong team this weekend. So these new additions are definitely helping them. We had one more signing that we saw happen over the past week, and that was Onigod debuting with the Dallas Fuel. And there's not a lot to say about that Fuel game because it they were flat, and I don't think it was on Onigod. We'll talk about what happened that more later, but Onigod comes from Team Doge. They've been lately been a hot contenders team, and we're seeing some of their players get brought up into the Overwatch League, so that's excellent to get to see tier 2 players earn a way into the league. It's pretty awesome. Hopefully we'll get to see a little better performances from the Fuel and Ani God, but I don't really think that it was a his fault with what happened with them getting upset this weekend. Um, you've been pretty vocal about Team Doge being really good, so go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and break it down for me. Like, tell me, I don't know much about Onigad. Let me know what's some of his hero pools. I know we've seen him a little bit on the Tracer.
Onigod, he has a pretty wild range, but his hit scan's really good, and I think that's where you're mostly see him, especially on this team. I thought this is what makes me mad about what happened. I thought this would be a perfect duo with Decay and Onigod during this double hit scan meta, because Onigod's kind of flexible as well, so is Decay, so one of them can flex. But instead, they just made it like, well, like Onigadi's good, so we're gonna let him try to carry the game. We're just gonna like bench Decay. So you don't bench Decay on this team. Decay is the team. When you play the Dallas Fuel, you're playing your team versus Decay and everyone else. It's a fact. People can argue like, well, I mean, like, their tank line's looking pretty decent now. It's like, yeah, but like this is not as good as Decay. And it's nothing compares to Decay. So don't put God up to Decay. Put him as like he's a really good mix with Decay who could pop off as well. Doha has had the moments as well where he can pop off. He can really make the team. Like he's just those two are not as carryable as Decay. And we'll talk about that later. We're gonna talk about Onigod. Onigod's a really good pickup. I was very surprised to see Dallas Fuel pick up a non-Korean DPS. I thought that was super surprising. I thought Decay only want to play with Korean DPS players. That's what DP has been saying. That's why he left the Gladiators, because he wanted a Korean DPS duo. But I mean, I don't know where else he's gonna fit if it isn't this double hit scan meta with Decay. If we see him more, if we see him like next week instead of Decay, I'm gonna start questioning what's happening with the Dallas Fuel. If there's something's going on with Decay in them, maybe he's not happy. But until then, I'm just gonna say that was just like a bad coaching move, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see Onigod play further with his team. I think he actually brings a lot to the table. So I hope the best for him.
See, I thought that I seen Arrow. I need to look it up in a second. But Arrow from the Fuel said that the reason Decay was benched is that they didn't think they had to have him to win, and that he could get some rest. But I think that was a pretty bad call. Um, I also we'll go ahead. We heard some rumors that Decay it was using all of his off time to play Valorant and didn't like Overwatch. And then he came out today on stream, and I seen a translation where he said, "No, that's not true. He still loves Overwatch. He has not considered leaving for Valorant, and that he just they just had him have a week off. Everybody takes some time off. You got to think about it like."
Mm-hmm.
We play video games for fun, but we're talking about people that play them for a job, and everyone deserves an
This
off day. Like it's
this
just how it
dude's had
is.
a team on his back for the last the whole season.
Literally.
So like he deserves a break. I'll give the team that, but man, I don't think this was a good time to have a
Oh yeah,
break.
bad call. You're totally
I
right.
mean, this when you're what are they like 4-9 or whatever they are? Um, they really need wins right now, and Vancouver should have been easily winnable, and they screwed that up. And even if they weren't, like I don't know, like I feel like after like one or two maps, you'd be like, I've got to think about this again. Like maybe we should put Decay in, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
That's a weird call.
And
I feel like Dallas Fuel's always had these weird calls. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it was also like the first game that the Titans won with their new lineup ever since their old one imploded. So like I could kind of see them taking them lightly because they haven't won a game together, and it almost makes me wonder if maybe Decay wasn't like on call, that they couldn't just swap him in with the way he was gone that whole time. So I wonder if maybe he was like, "Oh, don't got a game. I'm gonna go do whatever people do with their off days during the pandemic in Texas." But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, uh, this weekend we also had a ton of Map 5s galore in the Asian region. 4 of the 6 games in the Asian region went to Map 5. So that's just like a monumental stat that many games were that close. Like we've been saying for a while that the Asian Pacific games are just back and forth coin flip, any team could win, and this really shows how close they were. 4 out of 6 games went to Map 5, and those games that went to Map 5, I'll go ahead and I'll just read them all off for you, and then we'll talk about the epidemic of Map 5s in the Asian Pacific region. We had Seoul go up against Charge, and the Charge came out victorious in a 3-2 victory. Then we had Spark upset the New York Excelsior 3-2, followed by the Charge beating the Spark 3-2. And then we had the Hunters push the Dragons into a Map 5 for the Dragons to win 3-5. So that's a lot of overtime games. I'm sure some of those voices were getting tired with that much to go over. Specifically, the one of the ones that caught the most of and was just really blown away was that Spark New York game. Architect was looking absolutely like just polished. And I noticed in that game they were playing a lot of Genji, and it was on the patch before the Genji buffs come in. We know coming in soon in the live version of the game has had a Genji buff that upped the damage of the shurikens. It decreased the spread of those shurikens on the right click to make them closer together. It made the his reflect a little bit longer and made it so that you can cancel reflect now. So Genji's about to be way strong, and some of these teams are just already running Genji comps. So that is going to be absolutely crazy for those. One of the things I noticed is that it seemed like Genji was a little bit more popular in the Asian region as opposed to the Tracer in the North American. And I think that's just kind of teams playing to their strengths, or like the flavor of the comp that they think will be best for them. But I mean, they had seeing that the New York, they recently signed Haksal, who is an incredible Genji, who was also playing it going up against Architect, and Architect was right there holding his own the entire way. Like this game, that's definitely one to go back and watch the replay of if you didn't get to check it out. Um, and Neuro, which of these games did you think was super hype? What kind of surprised you with it being so close?
Um, so what surprised me being so close is, of course, the Spark in my Excel game wasn't like surprising. It was close. I think Spark is really upgraded. I also thought New York was really good. It just shows that Spark has really upgraded. Like they've shown a
Mm-hmm.
lot. We talked about QOQ earlier in Architect. I don't want to go over and hash those things, but they looked amazing. Spark looked really good. Um, so Charge had 2 Map 5s, and they won both of them. Against the Spark the Spark and the Soul Dynasty. This shows that they're really resilient. And I didn't see them winning the Spark game going into this week, but it shows they're really strong, and I was not expecting that. So overall, I think Charge has really impressed me the most this season, not this season, but this week. And then let's, I mean, Chengdu Hunters go up 2 against the Dragons after getting 3-0'd by who? Who did they get 3-0 by?
London.
3-0 by London Spitfire. Insane. Of course, you can bring that down to, well, they weren't. I don't think Dragons were playing Lip, so maybe that was it. Dragons always try to bring in these weird comps, make them work, and it just like ends up falling flat. And like, all right, well, let's just win the game. They bring in like every player they want to win with. So I mean, overall, like these games are great. It shows that it's really close. I hope stuff like this keeps continuing into the Summer Showdown. Because I mean, last time's specific games for the Summer Showdowns were fantastic.
For sure.
And it looks like teams have even upgraded since then. Spark's looking great. Chengdu Hunter's still Chengdu. I wouldn't really bring them into it, but Charge looks improved, and I mean, it looks like Seoul can at least still be in it. Like they always just somehow come back. So I'm excited.
And let's Charge definitely showing the mental strength there, but we also got to take a second and look back. This is their first two games since the melee where they were the number 1 seed going in and got upset by Seoul, who was the bottom seed. So Charge kind of got something to prove, and they're definitely a strong team, so it'll be interesting to see if they're going to be able to win their next game and earn a high seed going into the Summer Showdown. And even if they have a high seed, will they be able to do something with it this time? Because they just got upset last during the melee. So hopefully we'll see the Charge. Like, I'm rooting for them. Like, you know how bad it would feel being a number 1 getting beat out like by the bottom seed. They definitely got something to prove, and I think they got the skills to prove it. But we can go, if you want to go ahead and move on to the North American games. We can start off with the actually one of the highlights of my entire weekend. Was the Houston Outlaws coming out and beating we'll call it an upset, because I don't know how many people predicted Houston, but I definitely was one of them. And Houston beat the LA Gladiators 3-1, and they were on fire. It wasn't like the Gladiators were playing bad all of a sudden. Like, the Gladiators played okay. It was just Houston was on it. Like, Dante was popping off. When Dante had a little lull in how much he was popping off, Linkser was right there to, he was played a lot of Ash and just clicking heads, big dynamite cleaves. It was pretty great. And then my boy Raucus had a great game. They played the Zen Baptiste with Raucus on the Zen and Repel on the Baptiste. And I'll say this, I don't think Raucus has looked super great when he's come in this season. You know, he's been there, but he's been splitting time, and I kind of thought that he was slowly fading away to be a more prominent figure of the bench. But nah, he came out and played some pretty mean Zenyatta. So I was really stoked to see him playing good. And, you know, obviously Dante, player of the match, but everybody has heard since they had got this win that Dante, player of the game, he was popping off. But you got to also look at Raucus putting up a solid performance, and hydration is really slotting into that main tank role really well. Go ahead, tell me what you think went wrong for the Gladiators, and then I want to talk about after that. I want to talk about the Kings Row strats.
So what went wrong with the Gladiators is actually something that we've seen a lot with them like with them this whole season, where they look really one-dimensional. If they can't run you over with their comps, they have not shown to be very strong with them. Overall, like you can look at the times. Whenever we had a mirror match against the Houston Outlaws, literally Dante and Linkser made so much space by just distracting the team to where it could let everyone else pop off as well. And Dante was just so solid. I don't know what you're supposed to do against that. Like, honestly, Dante looked insane. But Gladiators should be better than that. Like, they just should. There's something going on. They need to try to figure out another style, and they just don't have it right now. OGE's looked all right, but like he's gotten beaten out by a lot of tanks right now, where he normally doesn't. Sometimes he does pop off. I'm not saying it's a slump. I think it's just like we need a playstyle change for maybe the whole team. Space didn't really show up, but my main thing right now, I would say, is the support line of Shaz and Big Goose just has not been there as consistent as they've been in the past, or popped off as much as they had in previous games. I feel like Atlanta game they really did pop off a lot. Even the Kings Row that we're going to talk about later, I think they really showed that under new ways they can under new like circumstances like the rush comps we go with or the I'd just say an LH Cloudy comp because that dude just makes his own comp. The dude he just changes the game whenever he comes in. They really shine, but right now like their double shield's not good. I don't know if it's Kevster coming in and it's not ready, but he looked fine. Kevster looked fine. Birdwing was not as hot as he was in other games, but like he wasn't cold. But right now, I really think it's the sports and tank line need to step it up and understand. I think the coaching staff needs to try to figure out a different way to play. Last year, really patient, and this year we're just not. Hopefully, things will change. But we can talk about Kings Row strats. I want you to talk about these now lost strats and
Okay.
what you thought of them.
So we did see going in, they both teams were able to on their attack to attack and complete King's Row. We've seen a fairly odd rotation from the Gladiators where they opted to go through the left through the hotel and around and up into the back building. But then Houston decided to come up with a strat I personally have never seen on their overtime attack, where they approached the choke point, the main choke point right past the bus for attackers, standing slightly to the left of the gap in the choke point with a May Symmetra DPS duo. With that duo, May used her ice wall underneath of Symmetra to elevate her like a Maylevator. It just lifted up Symmetra and gave Linkser this perfect view to drop a teleport to the back high ground of King's Row. It would be to the back high ground, and it'd be the one that's like pretty much attached to the point, the high ground. Like if you're facing the point for attackers, it's slightly to the right, but not the far right. It's like not the other side of the statue. So as soon as they drop that teleporter on, then May destroyed the ice wall, dropping the teleporter down. So they placed the TP on top of the ice wall, and so you saw a Symmetra pop up only for like a split second, and then drop back down to safety. So he was able to get a teleporter on and then drop it down to where there was no line of sight from the entrance to the exit of the teleporter, so that as it drops down, what they thought was the entire Houston Outlaws teleporting to the high ground, but it wasn't. Linkser, their Symmetra, didn't teleport and instead waited for his whole team to use it and turned around, went back to spawn to lock Widowmaker and pop up into the top window of spawn. So that turns the entire LA Gladiators team around to be fighting Houston Outlaws, who were then on the high ground behind them. And that just opens up all kinds of room for Linkser to start popping shots with the Widowmaker. And it really left for like a double-sided pincher attack on the LA Gladiators. And just the tech of using the Maywall to get the sim teleporter in a place where they could enter it safely, it was just something I'd never seen before. It's like 9,000 IQ to be able to do that. So
Yeah, it sounds a little familiar. The whole like Widow popping out and on a high ground in Kings Row. It's almost like it was Gladiator season 1. Like I have to the balls to bamboozle the team that created the big bamboozle. Fantastic, good job, Houston Outlaws. Like that was absolutely fantastic. It sucks that it happened to my team, but also like we've already done it. I'm kind of glad other teams showed like, hey, there's still opportunity for crazy shit like this to happen again. And then they also added onto it with that Maywall sim teleporter, which is I thought that was insane. Good job. It shows that the Houston Outlaws staff, like coaching staff, is actually really competent in what they're doing. I had faith in Harsha in the beginning. there's been times where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like even to this day, Houston Outlaws can be very meta dependent. But when it's the right meta, they are looking really solid, and they really showed this game.
Yeah, like this is what I thought the Houston Outlaws would look like this year preseason. Like when they announced that they had signed Mecca, they announced that they had signed like all the signings they had. I kind of expected them to be like this is what I thought they would be looking like. So it was absolutely great to see them kind of like meeting the expectations they've been kind of falling flat on so far this year. And I really hope we get to see them keep it up because they by no means had any easy games for the seeding of the summer showdown. I think that their game this coming weekend is going to be pretty tough too against the Florida Mayhem.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But here we go. Yeah, do we got any more comments on that Houston Outlaws beating the Gladiators?
LH Cloudy's OP. Like, what are you gonna do? That's why we want a map.
That's-
Other than that, no. I think Gladiators need to step it up. I think Houston Outlaws continue what they're doing. GG's. I own you. I still owe you a skin.
oh
We
yeah,
did have a skin bet on that. I will get you on that. I'm waiting for my paycheck to come in, and I'll get that to you.
no
So
worries.
there you go.
You could probably bait me into making another bet and win it back before it's ever paid for real. I'd like to make bets, and I'm really glad this one paid off. But we had another team just absolutely pop off this weekend, and I guess we call it I consider it an upset. We're seeing the Los Angeles Valiant just come out and they just went insane against the Florida Mayhem. Like Shax could not be stopped, and Florida's coming off that pretty strong uh, melee performance, and I kind of thought that they were starting to look like a pretty elite team, and then they run into this LA Valiant that they just ran into them like a brick wall. Like Shax was going crazy on the Tracer, and like we've seen Yaki, and has a really really good, really annoying Tracer, but it seemed like Yaki wasn't able to really get much done because every time he tried to make a move, it was like Shax was either there waiting for him, or anytime he tried to make a move, he just had to turn around back and peel to try to protect his support from Shax. Like that dude was going nuts this whole series. Um, I really did not expect to see us talking about LA Valiant and Florida Mayhem being highly ranked teams going in at the beginning of the
Going
season.
into the season,
But
yeah.
I mean, I think consensus we had them both bottom five, and here we are going into this, and they are both, I think, some of the very few teams with winning records. And LA Valiant, their DPS line is the thing of nightmares for the rest of the league. I
So
bet there
I
are
think it's top 5.
Oh, for sure. In North
Yeah,
American DPS lines, like it might even be top two, top three. Uh,
top 3, and I think Mayhem's in that discussion as well. So,
yeah, yeah.
um,
So they're just
yeah.
crazy. Totally, I think most of the community underrated the LA Valiant going into this season, and
Oh, 100%.
yeah, like Shax is nuts. Like preseason, I was like, oh, he's got a really good Reaper. He's like pretty good at some of the other hit scan heroes and like flankers and stuff. But his Tracer is literally one of the best tracers in North America. And I'm a big Outlaws fan, and I'm saying that after what Dante did against the Gladiators. I think what
Right.
Shax did to the Mayhem exceeded what Dante did to the Gladiators.
I
Okay.
don't
You don't
know.
know about that.
I don't know exactly. I think they're very matched up. I'm super into the game. I hope that they get to play in a meta where they're both at their peak. I think for both Houston Outlaws and LA Valiant, these are really good metas for both of the teams. It was a good meta for Florida Mayhem as well. I think if there was Brig allowed, I think they'd be probably top notch. Nothing against Chris, but I think that's kind of a fault. It's time to stop underrating LA Valiant. It really is. It shows that their coaching staff is very competent in what they're doing and how they're going to play. And I mean, like you saw them Saturday. They were trash talking any team that lost. They trash talked both Gladiators and Fuel as soon as they lost. And I was like, they're looking really confident. I'm like, oh, they're ready for this mayhem game. This could be really competitive. And man, it was. And although it was pretty close, Valiant just showed that they were better. DPS line just went off. Dreamer had a game. I don't know if anyone's talking about that. Dreamer did have had a
Yep.
game. McGravy did his job. Like I think McGravy is really good emotional leader for this team, and it shows. It might not show in gameplay. I think Gargoyle did outplay him, but overall, like I think he's playing fine. Last Rain is actually insane. I think that's an insane support line as well. This team, if it's the right meta, could go far. I still don't see them peaking over teams like Shock. I know they beat them earlier, but Shock really just not in the funk. But like Shock at his peak versus Valiant at the peak, I don't see it happening. But I see them beating a lot of teams. Like this could be like a huge dark horse going into not only the summer. I don't think this is a dark horse going into this summer showdown, but like in the finals, in the final championship weekend. I think this team could really make some upsets. Overall, like Mayhem played well as well. I think they played our hard. I think honestly, Valiant just wanted it more. They really wanted this win, and it shows. So props to Valiant. Like keep going. I've kind of been on this high horse for Valiant for a little bit now. Don't underestimate them. Like I think they could beat anyone in this league. Um, any given week, depending on the meta. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens next.
For sure, for sure. Like, I bet after that game, there's some players going home having nightmares about what Shax was doing to Florida. Like, that was just absolutely incredible. But I think we pretty much covered a lot of the high points of this past weekend's games, and it brings us time to go over some of the upcoming games for this weekend. I'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and just bunch together these Saturday morning Asian Pacific games and talk about them. We got to kick off the weekend on Saturday morning. We got the Chengdu Hunters coming up against the Guangzhou Charge, followed by the Seoul Dynasty versus the Shanghai Dragons, a replay of that incredible finals from the May Melee tournament. And then rounding off the Saturday morning games, we have the Hangzhou Spark coming off a pretty tense weekend for them, coming up against the London Spitfire. Um, this Seoul versus Shanghai game, that's like the same match that from the finals of the May Melee, and it would be hard to say that there's not a little bit of a grudge match going on there. You don't play a reverse sweep in a best of 7 without holding on to some feelings about that. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna see Seoul
Mm-hmm.
come up against Shanghai, and yeah, that's gonna be a game to watch. I'm gonna try to wake up early enough to see it, but I might just have to catch VODs because it it's the beginning of my vacation. Come on.
Oh yeah, don't
It's gonna be tough.
like watch the VODs, bro. Like there's no shame in watching VODs as long as you watch the games. This is where I'm at. But
Oh yeah.
I do want to say, although these games might look compelling, I see this as a 3 Overwatch. Unless Shanghai goes with their B roster, which they've been doing lately, I see this as 3 Overwatch. I think Spark is good enough to 3-0 London Spitfire nowadays, although London has looked really impressive as of late. I see Sparks as a better team. Seoul Dynasty for Shanghai Dragons. Dragons, the one problem they had was just like they weren't playing the right players. And I know they're trying to improve their B team and make it to where like they can play these DPS players, but really I think this team revolves around how good does, or like Lip being on the roster. I don't know what he brings to the team exactly, but I feel like every time he's in the roster with Fearless and some other guys, like it's just magic. It's absolute magic. And I mean, I'll do something if it's not 3-0s or whatever. But like, it's kind of like it's one of my hot takes. I think this is gonna be 3 Overwatch this coming Saturday for the Asian region.
Yeah, I don't think that's a very much of a hot take for 2/3 of the games. I wouldn't be surprised seeing the Charge 3 of the Hunters or seeing the Spark 3-0 Spitfire, but I think that Soul Dragons game is gonna be pretty close. I think that just with the way that last game they played, the way that went, that was like laying the foundation of a rivalry going in. I think by the end of this season, we're gonna end up talking about Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons just being rivals. Like I really do think that and you know rivalries push teams to be better. So really do believe that the feelings that the dynasty have after that reverse sweep could motivate them to be put up a performance and not get 3-0'd by the Dragons. So, yeah, like I kind of agree with you for the most part, but I don't see that game I don't see that game not being close with after how the last time they played went. I know it's different hero pools and stuff, but it's still like rivalries tend to make things the rivalry factor is just different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that Soul's gonna get
Yeah.
completely swept by the Dragons just because of that. Just because of that.
I don't think it's the rivalry standards yet. I know they had a really good game, but I'm just not there with that. I I'm gonna say this out loud. Although I think that game was really good, I do think Shanghai kind of threw two maps. In the melee. I think that's exactly what happened. I just feel like they like threw it out like here you go. Still did look good, but as soon as like Shanghai said, "Oh, we're trying to get serious," they got serious and won it. Like I don't even think so. Like Shanghai's thinking a second thought after that. Like yeah, we won it all. It's fine. We're good. Um. So I don't know. Like I hope it's a good game. I hope these are good games. But I really would not be surprised if these are all 3-0s.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but then we'll get Saturday going into the North American games starting in the afternoon. We will have to kick the day off or kick the afternoon off. We will have the Florida Mayhem taking on the Houston Outlaws, followed by the Dallas Fuel going up against the Toronto Defiant. Next game would be the Vancouver Titans going to play the Boston Uprising. And closing out the Saturday games, we'll have the Washington Justice taking on the LA Gladiators. So, what I see here that stands out to me Houston, Florida, tough game for Houston. And then I see your Gladiators got a pretty good rebound game coming up after they're getting upset by the Outlaws. I'm gonna say that quite a few times. I like it sounds good. It's a little bit of gloating. So after the
Oh yeah, that's
Gladiators
fine.
got upset by the Outlaws, it gives them a game to come into. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Justice, they're pretty much bottom of the league, so it gives the Gladiators like a game to bounce back on and hopefully they don't pull a fuel and be like we're gonna bench our good players because and not take it seriously. But I definitely think that's a pretty good lock for Gladiators. And then the games in between, the Fuel versus Toronto Defiant, who knows how that could go. And then the Titans versus Uprising, that's another bottom five matchup. So, yeah, what you got? What's your feelings on these?
I think we have three bangers and one where Gladiators just the to prepare against. I'm not gonna lie. I'm tired of us losing. I'm not saying I'm not saying Houston Outlaws is a bottom five team or whatever. I'm saying that we really underestimated them. And Boston Uprising, when we lost to them, they're still number 20. Like they still are, despite their better record.
And
Gladiators really hasn't shown anything, but we're not gonna talk about that too much. I do think Gladiators are gonna win that game easily. I really do want to emphasis Florida Man versus Houston Outlaws is gonna be pretty good. Dallas Fuel versus Toronto Defiant could actually be a banger, like absolute banger. I think Toronto Defiant could actually come out and show what they're made of. And I've never seen Dallas is that strong, so maybe depending on the meta. We don't know what the meta is. I understand like it could be exactly what we saw during the May melee, but it could be something completely different. I don't know if the Genji buffs are in on this patch yet, but like things could change, and now that we have more time to understand the meta, it could really change. But overall, like I think Vancouver's looking better as well, and Boston Uprising looked improved, so it could be really close. Boston Uprising really need to win this. Overall, like I feel like the teams that would need to win these the most is honestly, I think Houston might need to win this.
Yeah,
It's going to be a hard game, but they might need to win this to save their season. Dallas Fuel need to win this, and Toronto. I think they both need to win that game. And then I think Boston really needs to win this to show that they're better than some random team that was built um, on a whim and been playing for like 2 months. So I like this. It looks like a bottom. It's like a bottom. The middle two games are like bottom feeder bad teams, but these are like really competitive, and I'm excited to see them.
oh for sure. And like, let's just put this into perspective with how close some of the teams are. If Houston had one more win without the movement of other teams, of course, if they had one more win, that would technically, mathematically put them into the top 10. So, for a brief period on Saturday, if Houston win, they because right now they got 6 wins. The top 10 barrier right now is you got the 10th place team Atlanta Reign 6-6 and ninth place Spark 7-8. From the league website mathematically. If you do power rankings, of course, it's not
Well,
the same.
mathematically, you guys have played what
Oh yeah, there's
16
way more
games.
losses. Way more losses.
It's like mathematically, like you're gonna, yeah, sure. For a while, you'd be top man. Like you guys would be like waiting, hoping other teams don't.
Well, just
Um,
that's I'm just saying that in a way that's taking advantage of the way that the standings page on
oh
OverwatchLeague.com
yeah,
goes, because they
it
don't
feels good.
factor lose it losses. They just it's ranked straight by number of wins. But I definitely think that there's room for the Houston Outlaws. If they win this game against the Florida Mayhem, I definitely think they're going to be a team that finishes higher than where they are right now. Um, that's not saying a ton, but it means a lot to me. But I
But
definitely,
I care. It's
yeah,
like where I'm at with Gladiators. So I'm like, I want them to win. Like, yeah.
yeah. I know that there's a couple games. Those games are all kind of like who could win. Don't really know, but we can go ahead, I guess, and we'll get to the Sunday morning games. Sunday morning, the Asian division kicks off with the Shanghai Dragons coming up against the Hangzhou Spark, followed by the Chengdu Hunters playing the Seoul Dynasty. And then wrapping up our Sunday morning games, we have the New York Excelsior taking on the Guangzhou Charge. And personally, that New York Charge game to me is going to be pretty hype. Um, One thing I noticed is a lot of these mornings in the past little bit, they've been putting New York games on as like the last game of the morning. So that makes it personally, it makes it a lot
Hmm.
easier for me to catch because I can, wake up, turn the TV on, and watch some Overwatch League with my cereal in the morning.
That's what I've been doing as
Oh, I
well.
love
I've been
it.
waking up and watching NYXL. I mean, you can see they also do it with LA Gladiators. They only put them on Saturday nights. And I think I don't know why they put Valiant always. I think they're always on Sunday. I feel like they're always trying to be like close to last, but they're never exactly. But yeah, like I think that's pretty dope.
And yeah, the New York. I mean, technically, I think I'm on the same time in the same time zone as New York. So, with them being stationed in a different region, but their home city being this time zone, it kind of makes it a little more accessible for the New York hometown fans. But I definitely think this XL Charge, it it's definitely gonna be a pretty hype game. I have no clue how to call that one. That one to me seems like kind of like a coin flip because the Charge are proven that they're pretty mentally strong with the way they played this past weekend. And then you got New York with Hawksaw being added, even though they lost to the Spark, that wasn't a New York played bad. That was a Spark is way better than they were, and Spark were playing really well. So I definitely think New York, even despite that loss to the Spark, is still a really strong team, and the Charge is strong. So I don't know if you had to put money on it, who would you bet, New York or Charge?
I'd bet Charge. I think honestly they'd probably have the. I mean, this is. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put this in like if you had betting odds, the odds are probably in sales. Pick Charge. Um, but we're not talking about exactly like that. I put money on Charge. I think Charge have shown to be pretty resilient in metas where NYXL has sometimes been kind of slow to the punch. I know NYXL has had a lot of wins and like they haven't looked like the worst team. But it really does depend on the meta for this game. It could go either way. Like if it's like a Genji meta, like good luck, good luck, charge. Like I don't know what we're gonna do against Hacksaw. He's insane. But I don't like this game could go either way. It's an exciting game. It really is. But I'm definitely I'm gonna lean more towards charge. I think they've shown that even if they're like down 2 maps, they can come back. Super resilient team. NYXL has shown that they're improving. Uh, but I mean, these are hard matches. Like you can't expect to win all them all. And either way, I'm looking forward to it.
For sure, for sure. And then Sunday afternoon, we've got 3 games for the North American region. And those 3 games, we're going to have the LA Valiant coming up against the Paris Eternal, followed by Atlanta Reign versus the Vancouver Titans. And then wrapping up Sunday for our match of the week that we're having our watch party for in the Discord will be the Philly Fusion versus the San Francisco Shock, which is uh, I don't know about you, but I kind of think that's gotta be game of the week. Like Fusion versus Shock. That's what I think the majority of people predicted that the May Melee finals would come down to: the Philly Fusion versus the San Francisco Shock, and uh, Florida Mayhem upset Philly, and we didn't get to see that game, which is okay because seeing Florida's rise like that was pretty awesome. But now we're gonna get to see Philly versus San Francisco. Where this is gonna be, I mean, could it get more hype? Carpe versus whichever all-star DPS Shock want to put
Probably
in.
ons.
Probably
Probably
Ons,
ons.
Carpe versus Ons, or if they're playing a lot of Tracer, Carpe versus Striker. Either way, the and that's looking at DPS. Let's look at the support lineup too. We got Moth, who might be one of the best supports in the league, and then coming up against the Philly Fusion's Funny Astro and Alarm, who are both just absolutely excellent. Like all around, pretty much on all fronts, this is just a hype matchup.
It's a hype matchup that could totally fall flat. I mean, you look at last week. I don't think we talked about it because it was just such a sad game. But like, was it San Francisco Shock versus Paris Eternal? This was supposed to be a really good game. You know, Sparkle comes in and supposed to be playing really good.
Sparkle and Exy.
And Exy was in as well,
Yeah.
yeah. And they got rolled. It really just shows how strong Shock can be in a particular meta. You give Shock 2 weeks on anything, they're gonna destroy it. But Philly really wants this. This is the matchup they wanted the most. This whole season, they've always wanted to play against San Francisco Shock, and now they're finally going to be able to do it. I think they're both 2-0 right now. So this is also really good for matching for the Summer Showdown. Whoever loses this is automatically just like not a top team. They probably have to play an extra game going into the Summer Showdown, which means they have a more chance to face a team like the Florida Mayhem and just lose. It's a lot of things are on the line. I'm excited to see it. Uh, I mean, this is probably the match of the week, but I would not be surprised to see this just get absolutely just demolished, like 3-0 or whatever. Just because Shock's so good.
Yeah, this is, I mean, statistically, we got as the number two and number three teams in the league. Philly Fusion, they're rocking a 15-1 record. Their sole loss coming against Paris. And then San Francisco Shock is 13-2. Um, really close to equal. Um, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if Shock just rolled through them, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I think that Philly is going to take this pretty seriously. I wouldn't be surprised if they're pulling extra practices and everything to be ready for this game because, like, when they lost to Paris, nobody thought of Paris as like on that good of a team. Like when you see you're playing against San Francisco Shock, you're gonna take that either super seriously and do everything you can to pull that win out because you know you're gonna need every ounce of talent and luck you can get to beat the Shock, or you're gonna look at the Shock and be like, oh man. And you're gonna get boomed and be defeated. And I don't think Philly's gonna do that going up against the Shock because I wouldn't be surprised if they've been prepared. Like, look at Philly's game this past week. They played the Boston Uprising, and they've known that the Shock were coming. I would not be surprised if they've been practicing for the Shock this whole time. Like, I would not be surprised at all if they've been watching tape and forming strategies
Yeah,
and
well,
practicing because does Philly really need that much practice to beat Boston? They probably just had a couple little sessions of like, oh, we'll do this and this and this, get them there, and then coming up against the Shock, you know what's going on. You know that they need to be on point. Like literally, if Philly wants to beat the Shock, they have to have one or more of their players have games of the season, pretty much.
yeah. I mean, I especially I want to keep talking about this game of the week. I think I want to really talk about the other two games that we haven't really talked about. Atlanta Rain versus Vancouver Titans actually could be pretty good. I'm actually putting that out there. Where Vancouver has looked kind of improved. Atlanta has looked very stagnant as of late. I know there's 3-0'd. Who did they just 3-0? They 3-0'd a team, the Toronto Defiant, and I mean, I don't know. Like Vancouver did look improved, although like they weren't playing Decay. The Dallas Fuel wasn't playing Decay. They have looked improved in Atlanta. It really hasn't impressed me that much. I could see this actually being kind of at least Vancouver might get a map. Is where I'm at. Um, but I really want to shout out this LA Valiant versus Paris Eternal game where if it's not double hit scan like it's been, I can see this being closer than what people think. Also, I think Paris is really going to start ramping up because they have not looked as impressive as they had in previous metas. Like that, the double hit scan meta did not look like it was in their favor. And now that they have XE back with Sparkle, with a week worth of prep, I can see this actually being really a good game. Unlike Saturday, where it was like these teams are not that good, but it's kind of fun to watch these teams play. This next one's like all these teams need these wins, and it's for other reasons. I mean, I guess not Vancouver exactly. Also, I forgot this Atlanta Rain Vancouver Titans game is the one that does not count for Vancouver in the Summer Showdown, but it does Atlanta Rain, so it means more for Atlanta.
Yeah,
Just to bring that out there, I forgot that was a thing. But honestly, this game does not matter for Vancouver Titans for the Summer Showdown, but instead for their whole record. Um, but yeah, I really think that LA Valiant versus Paris Eternal and Philly Fusion versus San Francisco Shock are the games you're really going to want to be watching going into this Sunday. So look out for those.
yeah. I personally, I'm not sold on the Titans yet. They still seem like they are pretty bottom of the barrel in power rankings. Yeah, they got a win against
Oh, I
Dallas
agree.
with the K on bench. I think Atlanta is gonna pretty much whoop up on the Titans. But this LA Valiant versus Paris Eternal, that could be an interesting game. Um, I think this might be one of the games where we kind of really start to get the gauge on Sparkle. Like, so far, we've seen him play against total extremes since he's been able to be in the lineup. They had Boston Uprising, technically the worst team in the league. And then right after that, they had, the San Francisco Shock, who is one of the best teams in North America. So it's like Paris, I don't think even with the Sparkle XD lineup that they're going to be like a top 3 team. But coming up against the Valiant, I think that that could be a somewhat similar skill tier to what they're going to be, as they iron it out. Like, I think that that could be a pretty hype game. And seeing Shax and Sparkle go head to head, that could be a, a pretty good
Or
matchup.
KSF,
Or KSF.
depending on the meta. Yeah, I hope it's not a May meta. I think if it's a May meta, then Paris. I do think Paris are the underdogs going into this.
Yeah, I
100%.
definitely foresee LA that they'll probably. I would guess that they will probably try to play similar to how they just played against Florida, with with quite a bit of Tracer, with little appearances of Widow or Ash, like one of the long
Mm-hmm.
range, and then mixed with the flanker. And then there is
Well,
some May play this past week. We've seen May on some maps, so I don't think that it's currently, because this we're on the same set of hero pools as last week, right? Or does it change?
no. There's
Oh,
no
this
hero
is where
pools.
there's no hero pools. You're
No.
right. You're
Yeah,
right.
there's
You're
no hero pools.
right.
That's why I was saying things could really change. That's why I'm not putting exactly who I think could win. But like just overall, who's better as a team.
Yeah.
Uh, because Diva's back. I'm excited. Diva's back. I don't know if we talked about this. No hero pools. Diva's back. Briggs back. I can't believe I'm saying I'm excited. Briggs back, but she's back. Sombra and what was the last one?
Echo.
Who was it? It
Echo.
was and Echo. Echo's back. That's exciting. I think that's gonna be good for some teams.
That's good for Florida because
Uh,
Yaki has one of the top echoes in the league, I think.
yeah. I think it's good for Philly too because they have EQO. It's good
True.
for Shock. I think we haven't seen Kefster or Sparkles. I mean, I guess we've seen Kefster and the and contenders with Echo, but like we haven't seen Sparkles Echo. Like, there's a lot of exciting things that's going to happen with this, with no longer hero pools, and then it's going to be even better going into the next week, which is the Summer Showdown with no hero pools when everyone's been playing on it for over a week. So it's really going to be way more refined than we saw during the May Melee. So
Very true.
it's super exciting stuff.
Yeah, no, actually, I just pulled up standings to look at records, and Paris and LA LA Valiant. They're both 8-6 teams. So this is actually a incredibly evenly matched team. I said that's where I thought Paris was going to land, in the LA Valiant area of power, but that's actually where they're at right now. So
I think LA played Shock like 4 times.
true.
And you have to put
LA
that
had some
you got
tough
to put that in
games.
account. They did win one of those, but I'm pretty sure they played them
Well,
a few
you
more
also
times
got
than
to.
anyone else.
Paris has played Philly quite a few times too. I think they played them 2 or 3, which is a pretty
Yeah,
big
they played them
challenge
3
as well.
times.
Yeah. So
But yeah, I mean, I feel like they were closer in that matchup. Where Shock at the end of the day was just like showing there's no chance, like 0 chance. But you do have a point there. These teams have really been, they could have been better if it was like a global league like it was supposed to be. So I mean, you can't really fault them. But yeah, I think these games are being fantastic.
true. So that actually pretty much brings us time to wrap up with the games of this upcoming week, and to wrap up our show this week. If you really like the show, we want to make sure you head on over to your favorite podcatcher and leave us a review. We're always looking for ways to make the show better and improve in any way, just to make it a more enjoyable listen. Leave a review, we will read it on the air. Nuri, you want to tell everybody about Overwatch Recall?
Yeah, you can find additional Overwatch content on our website, Recall. Every Sunday, we release the weekly recall that lists the episodes released within the last week. For more information, follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OW Recall. And also, if you'd like to show some additional support to our network of Overwatch shows, consider pledging via Patreon. Tiers start at just $1 a month. More information can be found at www.patreon.com/OWL network. You too can join the likes of our Mash and Above patrons Daniel Alakasha, Agent Life, and 044 in helping our network grow. And Booker, how can they contact the show?
If you want to send an email to us, you can send an email to contact@owlnshow.com. We have a website, which is www.owlnshow.com. You can check out our Twitter for up-to-date news on the podcast, which is OWLN Show. You can find replays of all past episodes of the podcast at youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. You can head on over to our Discord at discord.me/OWLN show. That's where you can find our watch party coming up this weekend for the Philly versus Shock game. It's going to be a blast. We are live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLN show. And we are a Twitch affiliate, so you can support the show by subscribing to the channel, and you get to earn the network emoticon. And we're part of a podcast network, so there are multiple shows that all stream regularly, and this is our Overwatch League network, which airs every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m. Eastern. You can catch Overwatch League by the Numbers, which airs Tuesdays at 6 p.m. That is a fantasy Overwatch League show. You can catch Heroes Never Die, a variety Overwatch program, which airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can check out Tavern Tales, Totem and Ed's Hearthstone Battleground show, which airs Thursdays at 5 p.m., but that's actually at twitch.tv/Tavern Tales. And if you want to contact me personally, I am on Twitter at Boogerbrains, BOOGERBRAINZZ, and I respond to everybody. So check that out. And Anura, let everybody know how they can contact you.
You can contact me on Twitter at Anura OWANURAOW. And how can they contact? You already
Yeah,
contact
yeah,
yourself?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I totally blanked out for a
Zoned a
second.
little. No, you good.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been a fun show. We want to thank everybody for listening, and please consider coming and hanging out at the watch party. It will be a pretty great event. We want to make sure that everyone that listens to the show feels welcome, and just doing stuff to hang out with the community, because I find that most people in the community are pretty awesome. So come hang out with us and watch some Overwatch League and just have a good old time. And until next week, we hope you all have a great week. Later.